The orange blade, one of the most mysterious colors that have made its way into Star Wars canon. And while we don't entirely know everything about its meaning, we have produced a viable theory that the orange kyber crystal is reflective of one's righteous rage within the Force. The theory about righteous rage and the orange blade was provided in a holocron that was released very recently. However, many of you astute acolytes took note of a small hole in this theory. If orange represents one using the dark side out of righteous indignation, then why doesn't Count Dooku have an orange lightsaber? Why is that his lightsaber is bled to be completely crimson? Well, my friends, there is actually a good reason for this, and a reason that does not compromise the theory of righteous rage. So, why exactly was Count Dooku not a being of righteous rage, and was eventually consumed completely by the dark side? Perhaps even from the beginning. Dooku is admittedly an extremely complex character, someone who found his stride in books and comics as well as extra media such as the Tales of the Jedi. His fall to the dark side has been shrouded in mystery for quite some time until it came to light that there were several more respectable reasons for his departure and why he ultimately left the Jedi Order than first initially met the eye when we first met the Count in Attack of the Clones. In the series, we learn that Dooku deeply desires for justice to be served to those who do wrong, and he is repeatedly stopped from doing what he believes is necessary by the other Jedi. His rage towards the lack of proper justice against evil causes him to flirt with the dark side far too often. This takes the manifestation of Force Lightning initially. Dooku, who would use Force Lightning for the first time as a youngling in the Jedi Order, and would use so against his sister's kidnappers on Sereno. Dooku would do so again as a Jedi Master on the bounty hunter who was about to kill his Padawan Qui-Gon Jinn. Again, both time Dooku does this, he is in fact a Jedi. We saw the dark side manifest itself in Dooku yet again when he force-choked Senator Dagonet and nearly executed him during the Tales of the Jedi. In both of these aforementioned events, Qui-Gon had to stop his master from falling to the allure of the dark side and killing someone Dooku believed was deserving of his swift justice. These situations continued to compound, one on top of the other, until Dooku finally had enough. And we know what eventually happened as he was taken by Sidious, accepting the offer of the Dark Lord of the Sith, betraying the Jedi and the Republic. Dooku's first true act of cruelty and darkness being that of the murder and slaughter of Jedi Master Yaddle. But asking why Dooku doesn't have an orange lightsaber of righteous fury is actually the same as asking why the whole time as a Jedi he was using Force Lightning instead of Force Judgment. Force Lightning is not an ability exclusive to the Sith, but is an ability that can be used by anyone regardless of their allegiance. It just required the right mindset. Plo Koon would be the Jedi many attribute to pioneering the ability of Electric Judgment. Electric Judgment being the Jedi variation of the ability. To do this, a Jedi channels their feelings towards righteous judgment and the deep desire for justice against darkness, and thus manifests itself into a non-lethal golden electricity, and while it does induce pain, it does not kill. Think of Force Judgment like a taser, whereas Sith Lightning is like an electric chair. These are two very different levels of voltage which are entirely dependent on the emotions of the wielder. With that in mind, I challenge you with this question. If Dooku is so righteous in his anger, why is he using Sith Lightning as a Jedi instead of Force Judgment? Perhaps the reality is that Dooku is not quite as righteous as his indignation lets on. But how exactly does this reflect in the lightsaber color turning red and not orange? Dooku very well has a righteous streak in him which led him down the path of Darth Tyrannus, and while that's a good thing, let's also remember it was Anakin's love of Padme that led him down the path of Darth Vader. Love and justice are two very noble character traits, but what happens when one little drop of poison corrupts and corrodes the entire thing? That little drop of poison is pride. This is one thing that the dark side latches onto and begins to work with. Pride is the foothold of darkness which can corrupt even the most selfless of intentions and warp them into something hideous and selfish. Anakin wanted to protect his wife and everyone he cared for, a feeling stemmed from the loss of his mother and living in slavery. A righteous desire indeed, and yet his arrogance and lust for power ended up souring these virtues. Instead of becoming a savior of everyone, Anakin started talking about becoming the most powerful Jedi ever. Anakin Skywalker craved power more and more, even so that when Padme pointed this out to him and said that he was not all powerful, he responded with, "Well, I should be." In the same way, Dooku's desire for power begins to manifest itself later in his career as a Jedi. It begins with Dooku wanting to purge the galaxy of darkness, to in the end, coveting more power for himself. Let's go back to the example of Qui-Gon Jinn and the Bounty Hunter. When Qui-Gon Jinn was eventually captured by the Bounty Hunter, from the forest, Qui-Gon heard a crackling of electricity. Dooku emerged from the forest, at first condemning the Bounty Hunter who was trying to kill his Padawan, but then he sinisterly tells her that she knows nothing of the meaning of true power, proceeding to torture her. Qui-Gon at the time didn't fully understand what was happening, but could sense the dark side and begged his master to stop. In this instance, there is no denying the dark side in Dooku and his desire to prove his superiority over others, assert his very will over them. Dooku truly sought power all along. We even see this when he duels Yoda on Geonosis, stating that his power has grown beyond any Jedi. Not to mention how in Yoda Dark Rendezvous, Dooku is quite obsessed with the power of the dark side, stating it's superior in every way. In this moment, Dooku is not preaching about justice or overcoming the wicked. He has fully sunken into the belief of power alone, just as all Sith worship. Wielders of orange lightsabers, such as Dagan Gera in Jedi Survivor, wanted power only as a means of returning to the planet of Tanalorr. The righteous indignation of having his planet rent from him by the Jedi, flushing all of his life's work down the drain, caused him to bleed his crystal orange red. And in the Ahsoka series, the Dark Jedi Baylan and Shin likely have their own selfless end goals to pursue within the dark side as a means to an end. We believe Orange Kyber reflects the desire of dark power in pursuit of a selfless or ulterior end goal that has nothing to do with having rulership. Dooku pursued dark power for the sake of power and status. Not to mention, he actually devoted himself to the ideals of the Sith, the ways of hatred and greed. We have to remember that Dark Jedi using the orange lightsabers are not aligned with the Sith's ways of thinking, but Dooku was. Dooku's goals may have originally began with the pursuit of justice and the desire to do what the Jedi could not, or rather, refused to do. However, if we look at the material, even the modern canon, and especially how he acts in the Clone Wars, Dooku is far from the person that he once was, and far from the man who all he wanted was justice and peace. Darth Tyrannus is lustful and desires power above all else. He subjugates innocents under his feet and has committed countless atrocities in war. He is a bringer of cruelty and misery. Not to mention that no matter how one sees themselves, the Force does not lie, and no one knowingly a part of Order 66 could ever be considered righteously indignant. Deep down, perhaps Dooku is worthy of this orange blade, but the way he conducts himself and devotes himself to the Sith ideals of hatred is what keeps him in the zone of using the crimson blade. And that, my friends, is why we theorize that Count Dooku did not in fact inherit the righteous fury of the orange lightsaber, and of course, fulfilled his destiny as a true Dark Lord of the Sith. As always, my friends, thank you so much for watching and supporting the channel. May the Force be with you, and have a great day.